All right, we are here with Tony Pietrocola. Now, he is the founder of Agile One?
Co-founder.
Co-founder, okay. Yeah. Cybersecurity company. It was especially interesting to me because it was cybersecurity blockchain consulting also. There were a couple bullet points on the website that I was going through that I'm like, all right, this guy's into a couple different things. Obviously, there's some similarities there, but they're not all obvious fits, right? So blockchain in particular, really good with transparency, really good on verifying things. Not always viewed as a cybersecurity solution.
Absolutely.
So that was particularly interesting to me. But even your background with FinTech and different investments and whatnot made me really happy that you accepted to join me in this interview.
Yeah.
So
well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. So now we're going to take kind of a deep dive. Kind of give me your background and tell me what led you to where you're at today.
Yeah. 2-second backgrounds. I'm a former Apple systems engineer.
Okay.
So I got my start with the good guys. We're using a PC, so we'll just forgive that for right now.
We have apples in the back.
Nice.
It's all the videos edited.
You guys are smart guys.
Yeah.
After Apple, started a company here in Cleveland. Came back to Cleveland, started a company called 10th Floor. We were an early content management e-commerce application. Back then, we weren't SaaS. We were ASP, application service, right? One of those buzzwords. And we were lucky enough to get acquired back in 2008 by a company called Bridgeline Digital, NASDAQ company out of Boston. So I went and ran sales for that company for a good 4 years. It was a really nice acquisition. It worked out really, really well. And then started tipping more from e-commerce into FinTech. So after Bridgeline, started a company here in town under the Union Home Mortgage guys. Union Home is a large company here in Cleveland, run by Bill Cosgrove. Wanted to create a competitor to Rocket Mortgage. So a FinTech competitor on the mortgage side of things. So I started that company up, employee number 1 back in 2013, and we grew it. We grew a nice little company. Really try to build things on tech. Right now you use Rocket, and I think Rocket's awesome. I think Dan Gilbert, I think everything they do is amazing. But if you you do that product online, you're getting a call.
Sure.
We don't have that kind of bandwidth. We didn't have a $100 million marketing budget. So you weren't getting a call. It was really the tech that was trying to get you through the mortgage process. So worked out real well. Union Home brought that back under their umbrella. And then I joined a company called Promentech as one of their partners. We actually were also building out things on banking, lending products, and things like that. And then when that company sold, we started Agile One. A partner of mine named Joe Marquette, who runs a tremendous company here in town called Excelis. We had the idea to start Agile One back in January, and we launched it.
Okay. I actually know Joe, so I didn't.
Joe's the best.
I didn't know he was the other half. Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you're kind of what led you to this specific field? So cybersecurity is obviously different than pretty much everything you've done before. Not that it's not technology, but it's a different niche, right?
It is definitely a different niche, no doubt about it. But if you think about the products I came from, e-commerce and FinTech, cybersecurity is a major component of both of those items. So it is literally so critical, it's not even funny. So in this rendition of what we're doing with Agile One is to really build out a cybersecurity practice. And where we focus, our focus is on a SOC as a service that we provide to companies. So we're protecting every endpoint, their entire attack surface, not only with technology, but we also have folks that are doing threat hunting more on the offensive side instead of just being defense. So that's where we focus. And some of the blockchain stuff you saw, a lot of that's theoretical at this point. A lot of that's just talking to people and some consulting because, to be candid, blockchain's a fantastic buzzword. There's not a lot of people actually doing it 100% or maybe even 50%.
Sure.
But starting to think about where that type of technology can lend itself some credibility. And marketable. It has to be marketable.
Right.
You got to sell the thing.
Well, exactly.
Right. So we'll see how those things kind of proliferate.
Well, and I'm all about buzzwords because when I made Fortify Your Data, it was blockchain, IoT, and AI.
Throw it all in there, baby.
I'm in there.
Throw in machine learning too, the ML.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the AI. So, so when you're packaging this, so I saw you were heavier on red team testing, right? So you're breaking things.
Yeah.
That's kind of. Is that your bread and butter, or are you doing remediation? Do you pass remediation to somebody else? How are you tackling that from a cybersecurity perspective?
Yeah, great question. So again, our focus is really on that SOC as a service, and then the red team, pen test, vulnerability, and then we have certified ethical hackers that do that red team stuff. Yeah, we're trying to break. No, we'll remediate, but we have clients as well that have teams where they think they can probably remediate maybe the lower to mid stuff. And then maybe the mid to higher stuff, they're asking us to come in and help. But a lot of folks just don't have a good understanding of what their attack surface looks like. So when you do a pen test or a vulnerability, like they're looking at this report like, let's not show this to anybody right now. So, there's a lot of work to be done because there's a lot of holes, and not because people just aren't doing their job, just because the cloud and the proliferation of all these things is making things a lot tougher.
So whenever I've been involved in pen tests, I hear companies kind of go, I want you to hack me, right? That's what it is. But only after hours between 6 p.m. and fix it by 4 a.m. and only hack these servers. And, that's not a true pen test because you're not really testing your team.
That's right.
So I guess how do you define or how do you package your pen testing product? Because I'm always fascinated how that changes.
No, you're right. And it's funny you say that. We just kicked off a new project on Thursday. And there were some parameters of what we were able to do and not do. And it's funny because, look, people don't want to disrupt their business. I get it. So we do a dark pen test where nobody knows we're coming, when we're coming, how we're coming, and we don't ask for any data. And we have a group of people that just focus on that type of a pen test.
Sure.
And we're going to be just like a hacker, right? We're going to try to figure things out, a lot of social engineering, really try to trip up maybe board members who aren't expecting phishing and things like that to get in. So there's lots of ways. And then we'll do one that's a little bit more visible. We call that a little bit more of an open vulnerability assessment where their guys know we're coming, how we're coming. And it's kind of a red team, blue team. It's actually not, but it is a little bit more visible and where you're going with it. So those two things together, we put those together and then we come up with a plan for our customers.
Yeah. So, and that kind of brings me to cybersecurity in the Midwest. It's a little tougher than, or at least the companies that I interface with are less used to having a budget for cybersecurity specifically.
Yep.
There's not many players, especially in the Ohio market. There's like if you look at any other like software developers, hundreds.
Bazillion.
You look at data centers, dozens. Bazillion. Right? Yeah, bazillion. You look at cybersecurity guys. Off the top of my head, there's really only like 10 established firms, right? So how do you compete? How do you differentiate yourself in this market where money's a little tighter?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we see right now is cybersecurity. You've probably seen the same thing. 5 to 10% of the IT budget. And I think that's crazy, right? Because cybersecurity doesn't affect IT or the CIO. It probably gets a CEO fired before anything, right? If it's not a private company, you're not going to fire yourself. Yeah, maybe not. Who knows? So the way we look at it, a budget should be really brought out of revenue and understand what that budget is, and maybe that reports up to President and COO. So back to competition, right? There's not, but there is. That's a vague answer. There's a lot of consolidation going on. You see a lot of the big guys starting to buy a lot of the SOC as a service, a lot of the tech companies coming in there. So there's consolidation going on right now in cyber. That's why there's a lot of venture money flowing as well.
Sure.
A lot of it, which is good. Where we think we differentiate ourselves is in two respects. One, we're not all things to all people. So we really go to market as a SOC that uses some publicly available tools that our team then tweaks, and then we own it. Not own the customer's data, we own the technology, right? Because I think that's important, and that's the secret sauce. Number one. Number two, we have the talent. We think we got some great talent, and talent in the Midwest, I would even say across the United States, is extraordinarily limited in cybersecurity. And I'll break it out another step. Battle-hardened talent's even harder to find, because the battle-hardened guys, they're probably doing it for themselves, right?
Right, and they're expensive.
Extraordinarily. Yeah. They don't fit Midwest budgets. So it really benefits us to recruit these guys out of colleges and then really train them up. But you got to have the talent to do that. So I think that's our second differentiator. And third, we really focus on some niches, right? Banking and FinTech, because that's my background. Okay. Joe's background, my partner, is legal and some other industries, healthcare. So we try to focus where we do a really nice job in.
Sure. So because I'm not as knowledgeable for FinTech, what are FinTech specific needs when it comes to cybersecurity?
I mean, think about it. FinTech is trying to create a platform. We'll just take banking. You walk into a bank, you get a warm, fuzzy feeling. People smiling. You got pens. Everybody's happy there, right? Except you got even got a pen on a chain, right? That kind of doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to be secure. With a FinTech, you're supposed to replicate that entire banking experience online.
Sure.
So think about Goldman Sachs. They roll out Marcus. Think about SoFi. They've been rolling out not just student loans, but now they got retail banking, lending, all this stuff, auto loans. They're really trying to branch out. And you go there, they want all your data. And you got to upload lots of data. So you think about the cybersecurity function there is you're rarely talking to someone. It's all a function of you uploading the most critical documents you have. Social security numbers, credit card numbers, you name it. Your kids' social security numbers, right? Everything. So the trust and the security that goes into that is just, I mean, it's beyond interesting, but the fintechs understand that.
Okay.
So the CEO will generally not own it, but he or she have a really firm grasp on the cybersecurity, where healthcare might be the worst, and that blows my mind.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's shocking to me because healthcare freaks me out more, believe it or not, than, financial stuff can be insured, right?
Sure.
Up to a certain amount, and generally you're feeling a little bit more secure with your banks and your brokerages. Healthcare, you got the most personal stuff about you, your family, everybody, maybe under your domain, and it just seems like cybersecurity is important.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things.
Do you think that HIPAA regulations are effective?
I think they can be, but look at what just happened with Quest and United Healthcare last week.
Sure.
11.9 million people. Quest didn't get hacked. United Healthcare didn't get hacked. One of their counterparty, third-party vendors got hacked. So, HIPAA is important for protecting the information and the data, but does anybody really spend enough time on vendor management? Because you have a lot of small businesses that work with the big guys, right?
Yeah.
It could be tech, could be linens, could be anything.
Sure.
People are breaking in those ways, and I think there's some blind spots there.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I asked that is to kind of set up. I think that medical companies might not have as much of a vigilant gaze over cybersecurity because they're like, I have my HIPAA certification.
Right.
I have hit the benchmark. I am done. I have finished. Right.
Let's go have a drink. We're good.
Right. I think that in some cases gives it a little bit of a disservice.
Yep.
The other thing that I have seen, and I don't know if you've seen it, is some people will take out cyber liability insurance over cybersecurity and just do the bare minimum for that. And quite usually, from what I've seen, it has been get these benchmarks, have this many certified people, get your compliance, whether that's your SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA, and then you have a base level of insurance. And then when you get hacked, because if somebody really wants to hack
you're getting hacked.
You're going to get hacked. Then you have that protection that way.
Sure.
Is that something that you have to rebut at all, or is that something you're not really seeing with your guys?
No, I think you're going to see it with everybody, and it's not necessarily the rebutting. It's, hey, this is great stuff you're doing here.
Yeah.
But let us just show you a couple examples of where you still have vulnerabilities and where we need to lock some stuff up.
And when you're looking at those vulnerabilities, I imagine you're finding most of those through phishing. But I guess what other if you can say this is your top 3 hit list of things people are just doing wrong, whether it's healthcare,
across the board.
FinTech,
I think number one, you're going to go with phishing because you can train people, you can put in all these great tools. People still click on things all the time, and it's not just the C-level people that people used to target, right?
Right.
Mortgage has a huge problem on the day of closing of a mortgage. When your title transfers, one of the biggest challenges is people call and reroute that $250,000 that's actually going here.
Sure.
There's a huge mortgage fraud problem going with title fraud, so huge. So that's something there's some companies trying to solve. So phishing is always going to be big. Number 2, what's growing fast, it's not the number 2 I would say, but it's growing probably the fastest, APIs. So you think about all these technologies are all integrating now. They came off SDKs and all these things, and the application programming interface. Let's define the acronym.
Sure.
Is getting hacked a little bit more than you probably would assume, because again, people are looking for the weakest link, not to break into the strongest link, right? So there's actually some tools coming out. We're actually starting to do some things with multi-factor on the API side. It's like a multi-factor. It's not like a true multi-factor with your mobile device, but something like that. And I think that will go a long way. But I think you're seeing a lot there. And then I would think number 3. I think it's some of the obvious. It's applications. So forget the API. It's the actual applications themselves that I think folks are putting out so much quality. There's a thing, and Mark Zuckerberg made this famous: continual deployment. Just continue to get new applications, new versions up and going. Sounds great, but those can actually have a lot of holes in it because you're trying to beat delivery dates, not necessarily hardened for security. So those are, I think, your biggest things. People are still hacking into servers and all that. Yeah, no doubt about it. Credential stuffing, all those types of things. But those are, I think, these 3 things, because they're the most prolific, those are growing at a faster rate.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a very commonly glossed over thing, is when you're constantly pushing out applications. I see it a lot with IoT apps where they're just like, we have all these sensors, we have all these devices, push the software out. With security, who's going to hack a telephone? Who's going to hack a thermometer, right? Things like that. So I think that's just obviously overshadowed.
Yeah.
Where do you see cybersecurity or at least how do you see cybersecurity looking in the next 3 years?
Yeah.
Right, because I think that market's going to change a little bit.
I think it's going to change tremendously. Number one, well, a couple things happened recently. You see a lot of consolidation going on, where the software guys are now buying the SOC as a service company. So they have the tech and the team, and they're kind of owning that whole service. It's kind of like what you saw, kind of like we were talking about earlier, managed IT, now moving managed IT and your services to the cloud and things like that. So that changed everything for security, number one. Number two, tons of funding into AI. So today, it was a press release, Vectra out of, Silicon Valley, of course. Vectra got funded $100 million today, or whatever, the last couple of days, but the press release out today. And they do an AI that is specifically built to understand everything you have going on when you're moving documents and things to the cloud, content to the cloud, and making sure that they're understanding the behaviors and, and that type of stuff. So I think you're going to see a lot of growth there. We actually just did a joint talk at the American Bar Association Tech Show with Barracuda, and they talked a ton about where they see the future going. They're owned by Tom Bravo, who bought them for a lot of cash. A ton of the AI and machine learning in the phishing. So it's just waiting and watching, and what it's looking for is things like vacation. So a CEO puts a notice out, I'm on vacation for the next 2 weeks. Well then, a strategic email or call could even be placed to the CFO saying, hey, I need you to wire that 200 grand to John over here. But they're looking for those types of things going on. It's pretty scary stuff.
Right. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the way Vectra works is it's an AI, it's a software application that creates a map of what your typical environment looks like, your typical transactions are between emails and whatnot, and then basically once it creates what that framework is, it runs analytics, which is its AI platform or neural network that says, okay, this isn't right, that's not normal, what's this, what's this? So do you think that there's going to be more of those hitting the market? So it's interesting because I did see that Vectra got funded, but I also have seen, at least personally, a very slow adoption, again, only in the Midwest for Vectra.
Right.
When you're talking to guys in the Valley or you're talking to guys in the East Coast, they're like, yeah, throw it over here. Like, Oracle loves it, for example. It might be harder to get, like Tucker Ellis out here to jump on it, right? Or somebody like that. So how do you think that like people are going to cozy up to that kind of adoption? Because again, it's not inexpensive, and it's a cost that people just didn't have before.
Right. It's a great question, and I think with anybody who's done technology in the Midwest, it's all about education, talking to people, getting out, right? The thing about cybersecurity is you don't have to advertise. The hackers do it for us on a daily basis. When it's the lead story in the Wall Street Journal and on Fox News and CNN every other day, they're kind of advertising. Midwest, though, how do you do that? You mentioned a word, and it's a very important word. Not normal. Not that the Midwest is not normal, but the activity on applications. One of the ways we work as well, our technology, it looks for the not normal, because the not normal, if you understand patterns, is pretty easy to spot, other than just trying to find all these crazy denominators going on with hackers, right? So the way we look at it is you find the not normal, or that starts appearing more, it really makes the hunting a lot easier. So how do you get the Midwest folks involved on it? I think number one, it happens because of it's tip of tongue in the news every day. Number one, and number two, it's up to guys like us to just meet with companies and strategically show them they need to be thinking about this down the road. They're not going to buy it today, but it might be a 2021 budget item for them. We'll see. I think Vectra has, if I read their numbers right, about 30 really solid companies that they really do work with. And those 30 solid are probably all within a 2-mile radius in San Jose, right? So
yeah.
We'll see how they. But New York, we just did a conference called CyVest in New York City. They brought in all the new tech companies doing cyber and all the major venture capitalists investing in cyber. It was a 2-day event in New York. They're investing a huge amount of money in Israeli cybersecurity startups, and that's the biggest proliferation of the technologies coming from Israel. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting stuff. You got New York might actually be doing more than the Valley with cyber right now.
So you guys are a startup then, right? Is that
6 months old.
6 months old, super new. How do you posturate yourself in this environment as like, hey, we're a startup, we're credible, we have the guys on staff, trust us. How do you I guess validate yourself? So I've had a lot of startups on recently, especially, and their challenges are really just getting people to buy into them. It's not necessarily getting funding always. It's hitting the ground running. So what's your go-to-market strategy?
Well, one, obviously, I'm not a young guy. I'm an old guy. So I've been in business a long time. So hopefully some of the relationships and networks I built will be a nice big benefit to our first 15, 20, 30 customers we
Okay.
have. So that's what, that's what we
Okay,
work on,
yeah.
right? That's number one. Number two, especially in this market, that differentiator is bringing people in. And you can't always bring people in, right? I think some of the, I don't know, some of the younger companies we see they'll do emails with you, they'll do web chats with you, maybe some phone calls and some Zooms. I want to get a guy in our office. I want them to see people doing, I want them to hear noise, seeing the monitors we have. Those types of things I think are going to go a long way. I got a great customer we're working with across the country, and part of their vendor management, they're like, we're coming in, we're going to check, we're going to see if you guys are real.
Right.
I know you, Tony, we're going to check your guys are real, and we want them to come in all day long. And not every company sees that, can do it, wants to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be a differentiator for guys that are a little bit more seasoned like me and my partner to understand sometimes that's how business gets done.
Yeah, you don't want to be smoking mirrors.
That's right,
Yeah.
you can't. And you can't always go to the customer. They need to come in and see the place.
Right.
That takes a little bit longer sales cycle. Sales cycles aren't 3 to 6 months in cybersecurity. They're more.
Yeah, not in any
They're
technology.
more.
Yeah. Even if you're like flipping, desktops,
That's right.
it's typically more than you'd expect. That's true for technology. So I want to circle back to the blockchain aspect of it, because it's fascinating to me that this is, so the only other cybersecurity company that I've met is Ucloak that also does blockchain, but they're literally just a blockchain program that is a private blockchain. So there's an argument that it could be done with the database, but it's basically a cybersecurity product to help keep your files true.
Okay.
But they're also transparent, so it's a little backwards. So how do you use blockchain in this?
So right now,
100%
disclosure, not 100% using blockchain. So that needs to be important.
Good. I appreciate that.
What needs to be important now is understanding what it can do, where it has actual use cases, and then start talking to companies about potentially using it down the road, because nobody's going to jump into it like that.
Yeah.
Right? So you look at its application. First, being a distributed ledger, I think, can help with data storage. Okay. So just look at the city of Baltimore. They stored everything here.
Yep.
That got hacked. They don't own their data anymore because they won't pay the ransom, right? Yeah. So if things are more distributed, even though that presents other issues, if somebody gets something, they don't get everything. That's one way to look at it. Number two, if you could distribute DNS, think about how you might be able to really reduce, DDoS attacks by doing that. That's an actual use case, and potentially authentication, and really moving the human aspect out of that. I think those are some actual use cases. Problem with it, scalability.
Right.
It's not going to be the fastest technology. And when you look at log files, your companies are getting millions of log files a day, right? There's events in those log files, I should say. I don't know if it can keep up just yet. So there's a lot. It hasn't even scratched the surface. We did a talk at Vantage Agora. They're an insurance.
Yeah.
You know those guys? Great guys. Awesome company. And we're just talking about insurance applications on the blockchain and how they're secure. Everything's it's not even at the 1 yard line getting started this way. It's still in the end zone. It might even be pre-game, right?
Yeah, adoption for blockchain is really nutty, and I say that in a loving way. It's just I see a lot of companies popping up that make no sense to me. I see a lot of companies popping up that make sense to me, but they can't get funding, and I think that's kind of bumping heads. Yeah. The blockchain, not Bitcoin movement is especially befuddling to me. Because
that's Jamie Dimon led it, right?
Right, but you can't. Bitcoin's its best use case.
Name another one.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Right. Now, I think that cybersecurity is going to have a tough point with if GDPR gets really replicated in the U.S. I know California has its own little GDPR light.
They do.
But one of the core principles of GDPR is the right to be forgotten.
That's right.
Which is the opposite of what blockchain is. Right. Yeah. Everyone knows everything all the time.
And the opposite of California, by the way. They know everything about everything. Every company, I should say that.
Yeah.
Not the government, but
right.
I do too.
Right. It's all out there, right?
Totally.
And so it's hard to mix those together.
Yep.
And I spent a lot of time researching how blockchain can help cybersecurity and vice versa.
Yep.
And from the cryptography aspect of things, moving away from the blockchain element of it and using some of that cryptography, there's some real legitimate use cases.
I agree.
But yeah, I was just curious if you had a blockchain as a service solution or something.
We do not.
I like that.
We do not, and it's something that you look at, you try to figure out. But again, with blockchain, you look at here in Cleveland, you got folks trying to do some things with blockchain thoughtfully, right? Blockland, you got the guys at Decent who you did an interview with, Adam. And they're thoughtful and they're smart guys and trying to figure out, and hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll figure out some application to it. But remember, just because you want to do blockchain, you have cool technology, there's still got to be a counterparty and a market to sell it, right?
Sure.
So that's what I think people are having a hard time finding right now. I think when you look at the not Bitcoin movement on blockchain, like say what JP Morgan's doing by moving hundreds of billions of dollars a day through blockchain, that is, I think, we'll start opening things up more.
Sure.
Because Jamie Dimon is a never Bitcoin guy, right? So I think that helps. Let's see how the big guys start proliferating. By the way, you haven't seen mass adoption of any blockchain application yet.
That is true.
But it's been a 2-year, 3-year buzzword, right?
Especially private blockchains.
So we'll see how things move out. It's still very skeptical.
Yeah, Adam Gall, by the way, would love you because that was a very honest answer to a blockchain question, right?
Yeah, and Adam and I had lunch a few months back, and I think we speak the same thing, right?
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
They're just not right now.
You'd be surprised sometimes. It's an interesting market. And I don't think anyone's intentionally misleading. I think that people see parts of what blockchain are, but they ignore the other parts, right? And I think that the transparency part is very attractive in a lot of ways, but it's also not attractive to a lot of businesses in a lot of ways.
That's right.
And Adam Gall will tell you all day, use a database.
That's right.
Use a database. Just use a big database, right?
A nice big secure database.
Right. Yeah. There's you don't need blockchain for a lot of the applications.
That's right.
So I'm fascinated to see where that goes.
I am as well. We'll see how it goes. That might be, that could be a big flame out. You never know. I happen to be a big supporter of Bitcoin. I like what that does. But we'll see how far blockchain goes in other technologies.
Yeah, we'll see where Bitcoin is a week from now because it's been pretty erratic lately.
It's been pretty erratic for the last 2 years. We shall see.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you tend to buy high and sell low. So maybe the exact reverse vice of it, Warren Buffett.
I was lucky enough to sell out most of mine at 300, so I feel like I did pretty well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a trader's dream, that stuff. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So as kind of digging our way out of that, as you look at your company, you're very new. You seem like you got a lot of experienced business guys on your team. You have a direction you're going.
Yeah.
What do you expect your biggest challenges to be?
I think number one, it's just getting people to understand they need to spend more money on cybersecurity. And look, when you're selling applications to people, sometimes you need those applications, sometimes you don't. That becomes, how do you work that around? Cybersecurity is something every company and individual needs in the world, right? That's the way we look at it. They just need it.
Sure.
We don't go to the consumer, but you know what I'm saying. Your McAfee, Symantec, they do. So they know they need it. Now is a matter of showing them. I'll give you an example. The average customer of a mid-sized business on up, so your mid-sized to your Fortune, they have 30 to 40 products on their bookshelf right now that they got to figure out what the heck to do with. Right. 30 to 40. Because a lot of them probably overlap. They're spending all this money, and CFO's looking at this like, come on, man, do something here. They just don't know if they can trust 1 or 2 or 6. They're like, we'll have to have 40 and just figure this thing out, right? Sure. And by the way, those 40 are probably running into each other and causing problems. So our biggest thing is, let us come in, understand what a mid-sized guy. And by the way, we're not trying to sell to the Fortune 500.
Yeah, it's tough.
We sell to mid-sized businesses. Yeah. Okay, that's what we do. We know our space. Let us come in, look what you got. Let us show you where we think we can save you some money. Let me tell you, we're going to pick up more security. And I think if you approach it that way, you get a little bit more, ears listening to you.
Sure.
But again, and this is a terrible thing to say, but it's true. The more things that happen after Baltimore, we started talking. People are now answering emails and calls more. After this last one, United Healthcare, you got other people wanting to listen a little bit more. Those help proliferate. It's terrible, but it is what it is, right?
Well, and even locally in Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, you're seeing manufacturers just get annihilated, right? And it's not even just by ransomware per se. It's everything. It's people just getting in and stealing data and then selling data. There's a big specific to manufacturing trade secrets. Because that's one of the industries that really does still have a lot of secret sauce, whether it's injection mold or the way they run their steel processes. That's getting stolen and just sold on the internet, just like Social Security numbers. That's right. So
Tim Opson, do you know Tim?
TCDI.
Yeah. So Tim and I just did a conference. We panel for Manufacturing Works, and there are 400 members. And manufacturers, even the small ones, like, it's not going to affect us.
Right.
We have a company, we know of a company, I'll put it like that so we can keep the name, no names please. They had one of their employees send an email to HR and say, hey, I need you to change my payroll to a different bank account. And the CFO did it, and guy said, hey, where's my payroll? And guy's like, you told me to change your bank account. It wasn't him, right? It was a VP level there. Probably had the office 2 doors down too, and just didn't ask. the point is, small manufacturers are hugely targeted because they don't spend anything on cybersecurity, right?
Well, your CNC machine is still a computer, right? And that's something like that's something people don't get.
You want to know what you're a fascinating one? Yeah. We did not work on this project, so full disclosure. Ford Foundation, New York City, managed billions of dollars in endowments left by the Ford family. The Chinese hacked that server. They found out later it was 4 years. They didn't do a thing, didn't steal any piece of data, didn't try to divert any funds, just sat there and listened because what they wanted to figure out was where the Ford Foundation was investing, they just wanted to see the cultural shifts of America and see where they were picking things up. So sometimes hacking is just that other people are listening and see what's going on. That's right.
Yeah, and I think that's
pretty scary too for manufacturers who are trying to innovate.
Right, and it's hard to. I use a lot of the Hack5 tools, and one of them is the Wi-Fi Pineapple, which is just a router that can intercept things. You can run Wireshark on it. You can get into SSIDs. You can change them. You can create captive portals. Legally, how that device can be used is almost you can't. It's so hard because it used to be way back in the day. You could use it in a Panera. And you could let's say you gave me a contract to hack you, and I used it in a Panera. Nobody would really say anything because I was hacking you. Yeah. But the truth is that if you open that thing in a Panera, you can't just wiretap one
80
person.
computers right there. Right?
Yeah, you just choose to only listen to one person. If you're a good guy. But there's also if you are just listening and you don't sell the data, you don't tell anyone that you're doing it. It's really hard for people to prove that you're stealing data, that you're looking. You might not even be storing it. You could just look at it.
Sure.
And that's something that I think is happening a lot more often, a lot more frequently than a lot of people are giving credit.
Absolutely.
Because I've also been in situations where I'll be in a Starbucks and a Panera, and I'll see somebody else with a bunch of antennas sticking out of their book bag, and I'm like, buddy. What did you do? Just raid a ham fest, or what are you doing?
That's when you close your laptop and walk out, man. Go to somewhere else.
Well, I try to use a VPN, so. But it's just people are super uneducated when it comes to that. But it's incredibly hard to police because even if I know that you're literally not supposed to have a router sitting out in your Panera table, but if you do have one out, you can't really. Nobody's gonna be like, hey, put that away. It's
not gonna be the guy behind the counter trying to make a salad, right? He's got work to do, right? So it's probably not happening. You're right.
Yeah, and the police aren't making their rounds, making sure nobody's.
I don't think they would know what it is either, right?
Scanning packets.
It's very specific stuff, and it's scary stuff because everybody does everything. Over the internet.
Right, and you can. I mean, the truth is that any receptionist, not every receptionist, but most receptionists will try to print that document off your flash drive.
Totally.
Right. Hey, print this.
Right.
And you can even give them a printable file, but you still get in.
That's right.
And that's just you sanction from the domain the best you can. You try to isolate them, but you're always just doing your best. Right?
There's a crazy number on people who use USB drives, and again, companies like us who try to find weakness in the company, just leave a USB drive somewhere. It's a huge number. I don't know the number, so if somebody finds this and says you're wrong, it's 7 out of 10. Say it's 7 or 8 out of 10. People will put that in their laptop and figure out what the heck's in there. Well, you just introduce a whole lot of hurt into your
interested.
system.
Yeah, you're interested.
That's totally right.
Yeah, just walk around.
It's not yours. Just don't do it, man. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I definitely get it. So, how has kind of looping that back? How is FinTech changing cybersecurity? Because you mentioned that FinTech's looking at that. They're more concerned about it than healthcare. They're definitely more concerned about than the typical manufacturer that we probably run into.
Yep.
How would you rank them differently in terms of how they're using blockchain, how they're using AI, how they're using cybersecurity versus healthcare, manufacturing?
Well, definitely on the cybersecurity side and the machine learning side, they're definitely using those technologies because understanding behaviors of everyone, not just their customer, but of also potential malicious bad guys, is really important stuff. I mean, I had my SIM card on my iPhone hacked.
Okay.
So my phone was basically a zombie for a couple hours, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm in the business.
I guess what was the goal? Just to block you, or to
No,
to
the
use
goal was to own that phone then, and to use it obviously for pretty bad stuff. God only knows what they did with it. So AT&T had to get involved, their cyber unit, and they had no answers. Of course, they just gave me a new a new SIM card. But the point is, when you look at everything being on this phone, banking applications, your trading account. Coin, what do you call it? If you're a Bitcoin trader, anything that's FinTech driven is here. How you pay your bills. I mean, think about Venmo. I was in a golf tournament this weekend, and we're playing for a couple of bucks, friends.
Sure.
And the guy's like, can I Venmo you? You know, I'm like, no, with cash, come on.
Yeah.
But think about Venmo, how important that is. And it's not like you got to punch anything in. Somebody gets in your phone, it's all stored.
Yeah.
So you think about the guys FinTech, MFA is not even enough. Multi-factor authentication is not even enough. They're trying to think of new ways to make sure that you're not hacked, because you know who's on the line if something gets hacked. It's not necessarily just you, it's them. It's the SoFis, the Goldman Sachs with Marcus, and all these other ones.
Yeah. So, and I think that kind of leads into when you're talking about people's concerns. There's some in my day job. We have some similarities in how we pitch things. So I appreciate that. And a lot of times, we're not doing pen testing, at Blue Bridge, but we are. We do have intrusion detection.
Sure.
So I guess what do you say when somebody's like, what do you have for cybersecurity? We have these firewalls, we have antivirus, we have that. And like, what would you do if you were hacked today, or would you know? Do you have any metrics of knowing you were hacked today?
Yeah.
I guess what's your answer to
that?
Well,
it's a great question, and the number one question is, first of all, do you have an incident response plan?
Sure.
Like, number one is, so if something does happen, do you have that? I think you'd be surprised at the answer to that. And has it ever been exercised?
Yeah.
Some guys like, I have one way back, and then we did it like 10 years ago. Okay, well, you've never even looked at it since, right? That needs to be looked at, and that's number one. Number two, does anybody look at the logs?
Yeah.
Right, all those endpoints that you just brought up, anything that's log emitting, has anybody ever looked at these logs to see if there's just something going on? The answer is 3% of mid to large size businesses are using any type of SIEM or anything. It's a very small number. So the answer is no, they're not. Again, we just came from a customer the other day. Intrusion Detection, some other products got it, and some have overlap, so that's cool. I think we're able to save them some cash, which is always a good thing. But when it comes down to it, never looked at their logs, never do anything like that, never look at the best practices of the settings. You know this better than I do. Azure and AWS growing like crazy, right?
Yep.
Lots of security with those products. Very few people ever change what comes factory. I use the word factory, it's such an old school word, but ever change it. Yeah. There are so many configuration issues that hackers know about that they're getting into Azure and AWS, because you got to tune those things. And there's a best practice in this. So we got people just hiring us and saying, just look at my settings. Sure. Make sure they're kind of best practicing somewhere.
Well, I liken, if you're doing data center services, you're buying an apartment, right? Whether it's virtual or physical, it's like the servers are the furniture. Well, if I give you the best door with the best lock in the world, that's literally unpickable, which is obviously everything can be blown up with dynamite, but the best door you could conceive with the best lock, and you just leave it open, or you just like prop it up against the wall and never, put the hinges on. That's not my fault. That's not the door's fault. You never configured it, right?
That's exactly right. Or what you see is that door's locked, and everybody's like, CEO walks out, feels the door, but then the window's open.
Right. Well,
don't look at the window.
And you'll see that, I guess, I think you see it a lot less, but where the executives like, well, everyone needs to have their passwords changed every 45 days, but not me.
Because I can't come up with another one.
Right.
I'm smart, man. That's smart.
I'm not going to click on anything, right? It's always that guy,
That's right?
Always. So.
Always.
Fun times in cybersecurity, my friend.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's interesting. It's active. Again, you don't need to advertise. They come for you, but you got to differentiate. Any business needs to differentiate, right?
Yeah.
You talked about some of these young startups. I've invested in some. I've done some consulting with some. I've had my own. Yeah. 2 were good. 1 was bad.
That's not a bad hit rate.
It's not a bad. No, but failure also helps. It was an IoT company. We were bad.
Okay.
Good idea, bad.
What was the IT company, or like what was the idea?
We were called IOTA, for Internet of Things Operating Systems. It was an operating system to run events. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome, actually. Just bad execution, and execution will kill all. But my point is, all these guys might have some good tech. Maybe they can get funding, maybe they can't, but they don't have a differentiator. And I think it's a differentiator that makes a big difference when you're out talking to the at least mid-size on up companies. You got to be able to differentiate yourself.
And if you had to give a concise, this is our differentiator, boom, what is it?
I totally think our differentiator is we run a SOC that doesn't just use the average software everybody else uses. We're tuning it with our experts to make sure it specifically works for the industries we do really well within. Again, we're not everything for all people. We're just not.
I like that. What is your involvement with AI today for your cybersecurity practices?
So a piece of AI, and I would say more machine learning than it is AI, right?
That's a subset.
It is a subset, absolutely. So, but I always say machine learning just because I think machine learning is real and usable today.
Sure.
I think artificial intelligence is just tough, man. It's just very different.
Are you saying like general AI?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll say machine.
Yeah,
learning.
machine learning.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, understanding those norms on a network. So if we're installing our software, that machine learning understands behaviors, usage, the norm, but not just the norm in a very defined way. a norm that can expand a little bit too with different things, because think about it, virtual, people are working from everywhere. So if somebody's trying to hit your machine from Europe, might not necessarily be a bad thing, could be your lead sales guys out in Europe, right? So you gotta understand those things. And maybe he's coming VPN, maybe he's not, I don't know. But so the point is, the machine learning understands that, so then when we are looking at those logs and hunting, we're able to know what's not the norm. We're able to see a little bit more, a little bit easier, and hopefully quicker.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as we're kind of wrapping up, I want to give you opportunities to plug anything you want to plug. Obviously, we're going to plug Agile1.io, not .com.
Not .com.
That was a shady website I went to on accident. But
maybe not go there.
Yeah, don't go there. Agile1.io. So plug in that. Is there any events coming up or anything that people can find you?
In October, there's the big IS summit here in Cleveland at the IX Center.
Yeah, was that the one that
1,000 folks or so going to be there?
Gary Sheehan used to run that?
Yeah. I don't know who's necessarily running it now. I don't want to speak.
I feel bad because I know who it is, but I can't remember his name.
So we're going to be there. There's 1,000 CIOs, CISOs. It's a hugely attended event, not just for Cleveland. You got Columbus people coming. It's really nice. And some other folks are going to be running a podcast, Front Porch People, and I'm going to be actually the guy doing the interviews with some of these CIOs and vendors and stuff like that. So I'm going to be you. I'm going to flip. I'm not going to be as cool or smart, but I'm going to try and be on that side of the table.
We can switch right now.
I don't think we have a little plant either, so we got to figure that one out.
Very cool. Very cool. Making fun of my plant.
No, I like it. Hey, you have some decoration. You got some color.
Yeah, well, we're working on it.
Exactly.
So, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
I
really appreciate you coming on, Tony. I think that after you guys have run for about a year, I'll probably ask you to jump on again to say what's worked, what hasn't, where are you going to go, how have you shifted, how's the market changed, what blockchain have you implemented. I'm fascinated by having that kind of snapshot of then, now, the future.
Mid-2020, I think, can answer more questions on AI and blockchain. I really believe that.
I'm ready for it.
All right, man.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.